Begin now a workshop of the McAllen City Commission. All workshops are open to the public in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. These workshops allow for detailed staff presentations.
Good afternoon. Welcome to today's workshop. We'll open up this meeting and we're going to recess into executive session. Yes, okay, we're back from executive session. Let's see, any questions to staff regarding any issues in the meeting?
No questions.
No questions. Item number 2, 457B, plan discussion.
Yes, thank you. So today, we're going to do a quick little announcement regarding our 457 plan for the City of McAllen employees. Just to kind of give you an overview, we're talking about $30 million of assets approximately between Mission Square, which has about 23 and some change, and Nationwide, which services our firefighters. They're eligible for the 457 under Nationwide, and that has just over $6 million worth of assets. So when we're looking at these plans, we have 6 service factors that we have to consider to make sure that we ensure a healthy, vibrant, and successful plan for our employees. These things include the fees, the fund mix, the fund performance, the compliance with regulations, as well as support services and educational services. To enhance the oversight of these service factors and effectively and efficiently, we're implementing some initiatives moving forward that we're excited to announce. The first was that we have partnered with an outside consultant, NFP, to help us look over these plans and the fund performances. They've been working with us for the last couple months and doing their review and have given us some powerful insights and will continue to partner with us. Additionally, we have a resolution that's on today's agenda that will establish some roles and responsibilities, and most notably, it will start the implementation of a 457 investment committee. That committee has a couple responsibilities, but as a result of establishing that, we can ensure that the city is having improved governance, improved expertise, better risk management, and better compliance, as well as improved plan performance for the members' accounts. And so overall, this investment committee ensures that the 457 plan will be well managed, compliant, and aligned with both participant and organizational goals. This investment committee will consist of the following individuals. The city manager will serve as key fiduciary, joined by Jeff Johnston and myself, as well as our 2 finance directors and the general manager of public utilities. Along with those individuals, we will have 3 at-large members who are participating in the plan, as well as 1 police officer and 1 firefighter. This will help ensure that the members get a voice in what's going on. They're getting a controlled organizational or organized structural education policy and investment policy, and the ability to really identify the key opportunities that are within the plan, within each of the funds, and sometimes what we've identified is we have a lot of dual funds that are doing the same thing, and we want to be able to streamline those, as well as ensure that some of the at-risk funds are removed from our plan options for our employees. We're really excited about this change, and I'm open to any questions that you may have. Seeing no questions?
Any questions? No. Don't look like it.
You're the banker.
I was looking at him throughout most of the
There's
presentation
right
as
there.
well.
Two of
I
us
think you're
here.
surrounded by them, Commissioner.
Who should I?
You're
Dale, any
cornered.
questions? I certainly don't.
All right. Should I move on to the next item?
You're right. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let's move over to the second item that we have for you today. Thank you again for your time. Today we'll be addressing 3 key areas. First and foremost, we have Frontier Health, which is approaching the conclusion of its 3rd year in contract. We'd like to provide an overview for some of the insights that we've observed through that partnership. We'll also look at the budget recap from last fiscal year, as well as the projections for this year. And finally, we will look at a recommendation that we have moving forward for next plan year. The first item is Frontier Health. As you may recall, this was implemented in October of 2022. Prior to that, we had a single one-site clinic that was a preferred clinic off of Bicentennial Boulevard. When Frontier launched, it began by providing direct primary care services, which was the core of their services, out of several different locations spread across from Brownsville all the way to McAllen. We additionally received the benefit of direct contracting with ancillary service providers and specialists through Frontier under a cash-based pricing arrangement. As part of these ancillary services, Frontier Health also collaborated with International RX to provide pharmacy cost savings. From the period October 2022 to December of 2024, we conducted a comprehensive analysis of the utilization across the various services. What this chart represents is the number of virtual appointments, in-person appointments, calls, and texts that were conducted with our membership population. It's important to note none of these numbers include all of the additional contact with ancillary providers and specialists and labs and things like that. This is just direct contact with the Frontier provider team. Overall, membership utilization stands at 60.6%, while our primary care visits have increased by 66% compared to the pre-program implementation. This indicates that members are receiving more care with improved access to timely medical services. As we look at the outcomes chart, this shows the difference between our engaged population with Frontier to our non-engaged population with Frontier. So our non-engaged would be people that have not had an appointment or more with our Frontier providers. If we look at this chart, you'll see the head counts, which again is that utilization of 60.6%. As we move down south, we see the medical and the pharmacy per member per month spend. What we're initially going to notice there is the spend with those that are attending Frontier is slightly higher. I'm going to address that in just a second. As you continue down, the ER visits, again, just slightly higher. But as we get to inpatient and inpatient admits, that's IP admits, and inpatient readmits, what you see is a significant drop compared to our non-engaged population. Our average condition count, which is like your diabetes, your high cholesterol, blood pressure, and so forth, our count for those who are engaged with Frontier is dramatically higher than our non-engaged. And our reports of any condition, even a singular condition, is dramatically higher than our non-engaged. What this means to us as a story is our sickest population, the 60.6% that are going to Frontier, is our sickest population. And those are the ones that are getting more care, again, seen by the increase in primary care utilization, as well as the fact that they're getting better care, which is preventing them from ending up back in the hospital or even having that initial admit. And that's what we want to see, because if you remember, our high-cost claimants that we talk about every year represents the majority of our claims. So if we can keep them from needing the hospital and needing to be readmitted to the hospital, now we're preventing these high-dollar claims that we've struggled with year over year.
Joey,
Yes, sir.
how does the 60% engaged percentage compare with a few years ago when we were considering Frontier? Were we assuming that number would be what we'd be at today, or was it a higher number?
So we knew that, well, we didn't know. Our estimates for the first year was that it was going to hit 60% because we knew that we had the massive investment in that launch, which we went out to everybody. We talked to them for an hour and a half. We put all these supplies ahead of them. So we knew the first year we were targeting 60%. I don't know that we were convinced that we would keep that 60% by the second year, and this is going into second year. So this is through September of 2024. Yes, we're 2025 today. So yes, 2024. So the fact that we've maintained 60%, that shows the satisfaction and utilization that they're returning, that they're continuing to use it. They've used it once that first year, and in fact, we highly incentivized that first year so that they would try it, but they're still continuing to use it today.
Is our goal, I mean, I would assume that we're looking for that percentage to go up, right?
Well, absolutely. Our goal
Okay.
continues to be to improve that. We've got some measures that we're looking to take over the next few months that we're hoping that will continue that. One of the things that affects it is our turnover. We have about 1,000 people that turn over on the plan a year, and slightly more than that on a really bad turnover year. And so we've got to get that same excitement into our new hires so that they continue to use it. And we've got some ideas that we're going to be rolling out to try to get those new hires so that they catch the spirit.
Wait, the 60% is the people enrolled in Frontier or chose it?
That have chosen to use it.
Chosen to use it.
Because everybody has access to it. So the 60% is the part that has the part of the population that has chosen to go for their initial visit and or urgent care services or any of their ancillary.
Okay, so it's not just the engaged against those two totals, because that would be like 53%. If you add the 1980 to the 1759 and take the 1980 against that,
So you need to add them together,
yes.
yes, and so it should be 60%.
Maybe they rounded up.
Do what? Rounded up 7%? I think, maybe make sure I did it right.
We had a couple different,
1980
different ways of
divided
looking
into
at this.
3739.
Yeah. It could be that this report came from a different number, but we have several different ways that we looked at the engaged versus non-engaged versus those utilized. So when we went back to like this page, the report that we pulled this from, this is what had the breakdown when we did the math of the 60.6%, because it told us on the bottom,
Yes.
220, in 2022, it shows that there were 421 eligible members, and 2,558 had a visit with
Okay.
Frontier. So that is actually where the 60.6% comes from. This is our active membership
Yeah,
of
that's the active
engaged
member. The
versus non-engaged.
4221 includes attrition, I guess, right? And new
Right.
hires, on and off.
Right.
Right.
So you're gonna see, like, if you add those numbers, that's like a point in time on our plan, which runs, we run about anywhere from 3,100 to 3,200 members on average at any point in time. But this number here, which is the 4,221, includes everybody within that period.
Got it. But
That-
out of the 2558 that had appointments, you're saying a lot of those people could already be gone,
Correct.
right?
Correct. And again,
and
that's
those were
where our
those were
attrition
unique-
plays into it.
Unique individuals, right?
Correct.
Okay. Now I see where that 60% came from.
As we go into the next chart, what we show you is the outcomes of 5 key areas. We put the first year in there, ending 2022. That's before Frontier. You'll see the primary care visits were much lower than the 2023 year, which was our initial launch. And then continuing in 2024, we still have the higher number of primary care utilization, and that's per 1,000. The 4 categories below it, these are unique claimants. And what you see is a trend much higher in the pre-implementation phase of 2022, fiscal ending 2022. You see ER visits, the unique claimants go down, the urgent care claimants go down, ambulance, and of course our high cost. Our high cost did go up that first year of implementation, but you'll remember that high cost claimants are something that incur over time. It's not something that turns on a dime. And so we were hit with our historic high that in 2023. However, 2024, you see our first reduction in high-cost claimants in over a decade. And so that's dramatic, because every one of those claims can cost anywhere from $50,000 to our stop-loss threshold of $300,000. And so we talk about, for 30 claimants, you're talking about a possibility of almost 4.5 million or so. So that's a dramatic amount, but the drop from 52 down to 30 is something we haven't seen historically. So we're very excited about that.
Quick question on that row of high-cost claimants, just without going into a lot of detail. What's the number one diagnosis or illness?
So for last year, we had cancer diagnoses. That actually went up last year. Yeah, it tends to like bounce back and forth with like preemies, but we didn't have preemies that hit the plan last year. So that was something that we were excited that we didn't see. The preemies weren't in our top 10. As we move to the next plan spend trend, say that 10 times fast, please. This is where we take a look and say, okay, what were we trending health plan claims wise prior to implementation? We were at $561 per member per month. So that's per member on the plan per month. And if we trend that out, you'll see the blue line. By 2023-24, we should have been at $631 per member per month. What you actually see happened is we dropped dramatically in 2022-23, the first year we were with Frontier, and it goes up slightly on the second year with Frontier, and that primarily had to do with pharmacy, and we're going to talk about pharmacy in a minute. However, for total plan spend, what we see is that delta for 2022-23 between the 603 and the 376, that equates to $5.4 million of averted claims. That means we should have hit this number, but instead we're much lower by $5.4 million of averted claims. On that second year, it's an additional $2.75 million in that delta. So over the 2-year period, the first 2 years that we implemented direct primary care, we have an estimated $8.15 million of averted claims that we have not had on our health plan. And that means, A, we either transitioned them to care that was under direct primary care and under that capitated cost, or B, we averted them because we got our health population healthier, and we had better site of care choices for urgent care needs and ancillary needs, and the cash-based negotiations that we're doing with the specialists and the labs and other providers. In addition to the numbers being dramatic, our satisfaction rates are fairly dramatic. If you're familiar with Net Promoter Scores, our Net Promoter Score for Frontier, based on the exit surveys, is at a 95, and I actually checked it today. It's running 96 in the system as of today. Just for comparison, United, Humana, Blue Cross all have negative Net Promoter Scores. For a health industry, as an average, we usually run around 58 on Net Promoter Score. And for companies that you know very well, like Apple and Amazon, their best scores are running 72, 73. So this is showing us that upon the exit of services, that our people using Frontier and the whole program, including the referral program, they're very satisfied. I've given you a couple quotes from some of our particular members. These are City of McAllen members that have left their own satisfaction messages. And what these are showing us is, overall, between the numbers and the satisfaction, is that our members are getting quicker care, better quality care. They're ending up getting lower claims as a result. They are spending less out of pocket, because if you remember the setup that we did, we removed all cost sharing if they went through Frontier for any of the services. So our employees and their families are making more money as a result, because they're not having to spend it towards medical. That's going into our economies as well. And at the end of the day, they're happy about it, because they're showing us through the quotes and through the Net Promoter Score. Before I move on to that, I would like to say that because we are at the end of our contract, we are going to be bringing at another commission meeting an approval for a recommendation that we have to continue services with Frontier for an additional 2 years to finish out the first award. We had a 3+2, and so we will be making that recommendation at a subsequent meeting to continue those services for the additional 2 years of that award. As we move into the budget, the impact to the 23-24 plan year, what we saw was medical expenses decreased for the first time in almost a decade, excuse me, primarily due to the primary care, the ER claimant count, the urgent care visits, and the high cost claims that were reduced. However, pharmacy, we did see a surge by 20.4%, and this is something that we're going to explore a little bit further. The budget process typically projects revenues and expenses, adjusting for savings programs and trying to estimate the impact that we'll have on those savings programs. However, for the 23-24 budget year, we were overly optimistic due to revenue shortfalls due to higher increased turnover, increased vacancies, and a growing trend among new hires declining coverage in favor of their parents' plan. What happens when we have our budget, we project how many people are going to be enrolled, and that enrollment means a city contribution and an employee contribution. When those seats are empty, that means contribution that was budgeted is not coming in. And unfortunately, for the 23-24 year, we had an extremely high turnover that resulted in about $600,000 to $700,000 of revenue that was not coming in due to those increases. The rest of the budget shortage fell because of the pharmacy increase in expense, and we're going to cover that in just a second. There's just a quick visual of our high-cost claimants, and again, that decreased last year. So our medical decreased overall, again, by 4.7%, and a lot of it had to do with the high-cost claimants as well. But speaking to that pharmacy increase, there were 4 areas that went above and beyond what we had seen trend-wise. One of them, again, cancer being one of our high-cost claimants. That hit the plan for an additional $357,000 that was not expected due to increased utilization, which means more claimants, as well as the drug mix that they were using for those particular claimants. The antivirals, this is Paxlovid for COVID purposes. The subsidy that used to come from the government for this was no longer going to be eligible or available. They discontinued that. So that hit our plan for $311,000 that we were not projected for, and we had no prior experience cost-wise to know what that was going to cost us. The anti-inflammatory category hit us for another $200 above what was projected due to increased utilization, and this is specifically a drug you might be familiar with, Humira. Humira is a very expensive drug, and again, our utilization increased. And then our diabetic spend due to the GLP-1s, which is your Mounjaros, your Ozempics. I'm sure you've all heard those on the news or on advertisements. That one hit us for an additional $167,000. That one was one that, when it first came to market, it had certain label usage. It is now increasing in label usage for cardiac purposes and other purposes. We're starting to see that on the health plan. Also, when we first started projecting GLP-1 utilization, there was a shortage that hit the market. And when that shortage hit the market, it affected what our numbers were filling. And when we were trying to trend out what our actual fills were, we weren't able to calculate what the shortage meant in people that hadn't gotten a fill, and so we underprojected what the GLP-1s would do. When we get to the net of the fiscal 23-24 budget, there was a net gap of $1.9 million between the revenue that we experienced, again due to the shortfall of about $700,000 of turnover revenue, as well as the fact that our expenses hit $20.7 million. This has consistently been the case. We've heard it for those of you who've been on the commission. We come here every year, and it seems like there's just this typical between 1.6 and 2.1 or $2.2 million shortfall. We do want to talk about that in a second. We're recognizing that, and these anomalies that keep throwing us off, we're tired of the anomalies, and we don't want to have to come to you with a net gap. So we're going to talk about that in a second. To address the first part of the gap for the last fiscal year, we are going to be coming before you with a mid-year budget amendment, the way we've done every year, to try to fill the gap in order to not have a net hole in the account. So these are the funds and the hits that they're going to take as a result of this budget request that will come before you at another meeting. If we look at this fiscal year, if we say, okay, this is how we're trending, but we've consistently trended between 1.6 and 2.1 million or so shortage due to anomalies, this is what we're projecting for this year, which means we're still going to be about 1.9 million in the hole. And so as we move to look to the budget for next year, in speaking with the city manager, we would like to address this gap somewhat permanently. And therefore, what you're going to see is the recommendation for funding. Right now, we've been filling it through fund transfers mid-year after the fact, after the year closes. We would like to build it into the budget to actually have that as part of the standard premium, so that the money that we're already funding just gets funded through the budget process, through the actual premium, instead of after the fact. So what you see is the premium recommendation. We are requesting, and again, this is something that's going to be brought for action at a future meeting. For today, it'd be for discussion. We're requesting $10 per an employee per month, per an employee per paycheck, on the employee side, and it would be $120 per an employee per a month on the city side. Again, this is funding that we've already been doing every year through the mid-year budget adjustments, and we would like to make this a permanent part of the premium so that we have it built into the budget and we can actually fund revenue to what the projected claims are. If we look at that premium recommendation that we've made, If we want to compare that to our local peers, we did do a survey of 41 peers across the state. And this chart is representing total cost, both employee and employer. And what you see is where McAllen falls compared to the lowest premium and the highest premium that's been identified from these 41 peers. The people that have the lower premium than us have a plan design that differs from us. And so there is a much greater cost share on the actual claims portion. Their deductible's higher, their co-insurance is higher, their co-pays are higher. So they are getting the money from the member. They're just getting it through a different mechanism. If we look at just the employee portion and what they contribute, the second chart shows us again how we compare to those premiums. In this example, for employee-only coverage, 54% of the time, the city of McAllen had a lower premium than the 41 peers. And for employee plus spouse, it was better rates for 76% of the time. And for family coverage, it was 96% of the time. We had the best premium for family coverage out of 41 peers. And again, to mention that those who had the better premium, it was always because of a cost share that they pushed it on to the employees. For our plan, with our design, we have eliminated cost share for the actual utilization if they go through Frontier. They still have a relatively high deductible if they go outside of Frontier. In summary, the health plan continues to outperform state and local peers in both medical and pharmacy sectors. Our medical costs have trended down over the last year since 2022, and our pharmacy remains our latest challenge and our top priority for the upcoming fiscal year. Our budget strategy is shifting towards actual trend forecasting while actively mitigating claims. This approach aims to fully fund expenses in the year that they actually occur and potentially build a surplus for us in the next year. And I'm available for questions.
Quick question, just for understanding of comparison, the 41 peers, is that only public entities of cities our size? Is it public and private based on employee size?
It's only public entities, so it's school districts, city, and counties.
Okay.
And it's, and for the 41 peers, the majority of them are our size. There's a few that are smaller because we still want to compare with them, like Edinburgh. For example, they're fully insured and they're a smaller city, but we still want to compare with them. So there are some cities like that in there.
All
But-
41 were fully insured, self-insured?
What's that?
All 41 peers were self-insured like we
For the
are?
41 that were for the 41 that are referenced in this, they were all self-insured.
And how many local in the 41? I would say like in the RGV, right?
So I would say we have about,
I'm just trying to make sure that there's not
Sure.
kind of a pretty far away outlier
Sure.
that's you know, for the high points, right?
I believe we have about 15 to 20 of the local entities between,
Okay.
between Brownsville and Laredo.
I think that's good.
Other questions?
Other than the proposal to increase premiums to cover the deficit, or, well, the shortfall, rather. What other mechanisms can we look at or consider to work with? What are the other variables we can,
Absolutely.
whether or not we actually have control, direct control
Sure.
or not? What else can we do or look at to consider to move around with?
So because we work with we have a long-range goal here, and we don't want to be short-sighted, we're working towards things that have a greater impact. We could always cost shift. That's always a mechanism that's available, right? We can say, okay, copays go up, we can do a 70-30 versus 80-20. In the long run, those are not going to have the effect of having better quality health, like improving the health of our population, and it's not going to improve satisfaction. So all it is doing is saying city pays less, employee or patient pays more. What I'm looking at doing, we've radically changed what we've done with the medical, and the numbers are showing it. It's showing the improvement. It's showing the improved health. Now we have to attack pharmacy, and there's some progressive things that I want to look at on the pharmacy side, things that we've not done before, and quite frankly have not been done in the Valley before. And so much like we were one of the progressive ones that did the direct primary care, these are the things that I'm now looking forward on the pharmacy side, and the pharmacy is where our surging is happening. So I think it needs to be our priority, and I think I'm hoping that you guys are open to the progressiveness of some of the ideas that we want to present to you. I've got to get through some vetting, and the question also is at what point we would actually implement it, because it's too late for a 10/1/2025. But is it something that we could do mid-year? Is it something we want to hold off to the following plan year starts? These are all questions that we've got to get through, but we are absolutely looking at progressive things for the pharmacy side.
Of the, I guess it was a $2 million shortfall?
Mm-hmm. 1.9, yep.
1.9.
Sorry, 1.9. Of that amount, if the empty positions had been filled, how much would the shortfall have been?
So the empty positions account for between 600 and 700,000 of it.
Yeah.
So,
Mr. City Manager?
Well,
Then you have usage.
but to that point, $600,000 or $700,000 in added revenue
Appreciate you
or
coming to my
contributions
defense.
would have come with their own cost. I mean, you're assuming those 700,000 would have been the most healthy individuals that didn't touch the plan.
true.
So it's hard to say whether the deficit or the shortage would have been
Yeah,
greater.
the only way it would have been is like, they never use the
Right.
referral, they never go out there, they don't get meds, they don't do anything, right?
Right.
Which obviously, probability.
Right. Yep, it's true.
But typically turnover is with the younger, people here 5 years or less, probably even 2 years or less. They're much younger, so the likelihood that their contributions would have probably benefited the plan for sure.
More than likely. You know, the catch-22 this year was with utilization at Frontier, picking up more illness, getting more treatment, we got hit with pharmacy. And so the challenge is now how do we take on the pharmacy and bring that down? Jolie and Jeff and Jolie and their team over there have been incredibly aggressive in trying to tackle those costs, but it's pharmacy is a very, very difficult industry to get to the real underlying costs on. That industry is very elusive when it comes to what the dollars are that the American public sees. So we will continue to push at that, but the utilization of International RX certainly helped, and that implementation of that program was a good first start. And the other thing that I asked Jolie to do was to be a little bit more direct in the budgeting process. And so, Jolie, I very much appreciate the presentation today.
Very thorough.
Any other questions?
Anything else? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is that all we had?
We had one public comment.
Yeah, we'll recess this workshop. Thank y'all so much. And then we have Taylor Kramer.
This concludes the workshop of the McAllen City Commission. Workshops are held every second and fourth Monday of the month, convening at 4 p.m. at the McAllen City Commission Chamber on the third floor at McAllen City Hall.